Olivia, why did you choose to join the Immigrant Rights Clinic?
So I came to Duke for the pro bono and experiential classes. Before law school, I had done some work as a legal assistant, working on a pro bono asylum case, and I absolutely loved it. And during my first year of law school, I was a pro bono volunteer with the Duke Immigrant and Refugee Project, or DIRP, and I worked on a pro bono asylum case again, and I absolutely loved the experience, and it confirmed that I wanted to work in immigration post grad. And I had talked to people who had done the clinic before, and they said, who were working in immigration, and they said that the clinic had really provided them with the skills and foundations that they needed to work in immigration post grad.
That's so cool.
Why did you choose this clinic?
Similar to you, I also wanted to make sure that I experienced experiential classes and clinics while I was at Duke Law, so I was already on the lookout for a clinic. But as a 1L, I was also a part of DIRP, and I also was on a pro se asylum team. And I feel like I got a lot out of that experience. It was really interesting meeting the refugees who were applying for asylum, learning about their stories, and helping them submit their applications. So when I was in my 3L year, when I was thinking about a clinic to join, I thought the Immigrant Rights Clinic would be a great one to spend my time on. And actually, you were one of the people who inspired me to join the
Oh,
clinic because I know you had such a great experience in the clinic the semester before.
yeah. What were you able to work on during your time at the clinic?
So during my semester in the clinic, I worked on a team with two other folks filing an appeal at the Board of Immigration Appeals.
Oh,
So we researched, drafted, and filed the entire thing within a semester, which was
wow.
a tall order, but it
Yeah.
really brought us together. And I think we really sharpened our research and advocacy skills through writing the brief. So it was a really great experience to be able to put that brief in for someone who's waiting for an asylum claim to be processed.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Hmm.
During my time in the clinic, I've been in the clinic now for 3 semesters, and I've worked on 3 buckets of cases. So the first case I was assigned to is an ongoing family-based asylum case. The family fled from Honduras, and they have been with the clinic now for a few years, so we inherited this case from previous clinic students. And when I started, we were working on drafting the declarations, so we were trying to build rapport and trust with the family so that we could conduct more interviews for the declarations to be submitted as part of their asylum application. But actually, after working on it for a semester, we got prosecutorial discretion.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty
Yeah,
big.
that's
So they
huge.
were
Yeah.
out of immigration court, and then we filed for affirmative asylum application with the asylum office. And as part of that case, I've worked on drafting a legal brief and just helping with any legal issues that they have as they've come up while they're still with the clinic. And then the second bucket of cases that I've worked on has been intakes with the Stewart Detention Center.
Mhm.
The clinic started doing work with the detention center this past semester, and that's been really helpful to see. To understand how advocacy works while your client is detained.
Mhm.
It's sort of a different approach
Mhm.
to lawyering and different skills.
Mhm.
And then the last case that I've been working on this semester is around HB 10, which is recent legislation that was passed in North Carolina. It's kind of an intersection of criminal law and immigration. And we don't have direct clients right now, so it's more around policy advocacy and conducting trainings with lawyers in the local community.
Wow, that's super cool. What is one lesson you feel like that you've learned from your clients that you think will stick with you for the rest of your career?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when I first started working on the asylum case in the clinic, we started with interviews, and because we hadn't conducted, in my clinic partner and I hadn't conducted really long, in-depth interviews before, Kate or Professor Evans really wanted us to focus on drafting solid interview scripts.
Mhm.
And one thing in the first revision of our interview script draft that she really wanted us to emphasize was putting the client in the driver's seat and making sure that they felt like they had the autonomy and the agency to answer questions on their terms so they felt comfortable enough confiding in us so that we could get important facts that were relevant for their asylum case. And I learned a lot about how important it is to keep in mind how the questions, how the interview, you want to have control over it, but you also want to give the client that agency, especially when they've experienced trauma. And so that's been a really important lesson that I've applied in so many client interviews that I've had since then.
Yeah, that's so important. I also think that it's so important to remember that these people have lives and families,
Yeah.
and that they're not, defined by their status in this country. So similar to you, when we were working on our brief, actually, that was when the hurricane swept through
Oh,
Western North Carolina,
yeah.
and we had some trouble getting our something that our client needed signed over to where she lived in Western North Carolina. Our group really made an effort to reach out to make sure that she was okay and learn about how her family
Yeah.
was doing, because for a while they didn't have water, they didn't have they didn't have running water, they didn't have electricity. So we just wanted to make sure first and foremost that as people they were doing well and they were okay and that their needs are taken care of, and just to remember that for us this is a class, but also these are people at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. What has surprised you the most since working in the clinic, and how has it changed your perspective on immigration lawyers working in this field?
So something that really surprised me was the strategic nature of the big strategic nature that a lot of lawyers need to take when advocating for their clients, thinking not only
Yeah.
about their clients but also about what's best for the immigrant community at large. So
Hmm.
that was a question that came across our group when we were preparing the brief. There was so essentially there's a circuit split right now, which is why we were filing this brief with the BIA. And if we argued along one circuit's reasoning, it would be good for our client, but maybe not so good for the wider immigrant community.
Oh,
So that was a really tough ethical question that we discussed a lot with our supervisor Shane about how to toe the line between being a zealous advocate for your client, but
right.
also realizing that this is not a one-shot deal, and that there are a lot of people who might be depending on the law. So
Yeah.
to be smart and to be strategic about what you're actually arguing in the brief so that you don't make bad law for everyone.
Right. Yeah. I feel like that is interesting because we talk a lot about that in
Hmm.
class,
Hmm.
in our 1L
Yeah,
classes about
yeah,
strategy, but then
yeah.
you had
To see it in
actually a
action, yeah,
chance
is
to
really
apply
cool.
it. Yeah.
What was one thing that surprised you about working in the clinic?
I think for me, what surprised me the most was how much it intersects with other areas of the
Yeah.
law. So I've taken, criminal law, administrative law, constitutional law, and all of those classes have really helped prepare me for immigration.
Mhm.
Working in direct services, I think it oftentimes overlaps with, we had to make an administrative law argument in our brief, and now doing more sort of impact litigation focused strategy and cases, it definitely intersects a lot with constitutional law, and working on the HB10 cases, that intersects a lot with criminal law.
Mhm.
And I think that's why I love this clinic so much, is that it really prepares you to be an expert in a lot of things and like getting to actually apply what I learned
Yeah,
during my 1L and 2L years of law school.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What class or classes at Duke Law that you've taken do you think has helped you be a really effective clinic student?
That's a good question. Definitely first immigration law with Professor Evans. We talked about not just what I was working on in the clinic, which was asylum law, but also business immigration law, how it intersects with constitutional law, and really just get to understand all the different facets of immigration law. And then also, I think constitutional law has been really helpful, and administrative law. But definitely glad I took the immigration law class
Mhm.
because it really allowed me to understand substantively how the law worked, so that it was easier to do the research and apply it, because I kind of knew what I was looking for
Mhm.
before starting the work.
I definitely echo immigration law. We were in we were in class at the same time
Yeah.
together. Professor Evans is great at what she does, and is like such a kind professor who really
Yeah.
cares about the human aspect of the law. So I thought immigration was great again because I think, as you pointed out, immigration is really interesting in that it's there's only federal immigration law,
Yeah.
and it works really differently than the other types of law that you've kind of experienced that you might have learned about as a 1L, but it does encompass so many of like the con law principles that we learn as a 1L.
Hmm.
So I feel like it's definitely because immigration is such a different creature. It was super key to have that background before going in as a clinic student.
Yeah.
And I will say, so I did not take administrative law before I took the clinic, but I'm
Mhm.
currently in admin this semester.
Oh, so you're like
And
an expert already?
hopefully, no. But I do think that as I was working on my brief, for example,
Mhm.
because of the way that the agencies are set up, I feel like having an admin law background would have just made me a much more effective and efficient researcher.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.